All right, we'll get the show on the road. Thank you, everybody, for joining us this afternoon or this morning, depending upon where you're joining us from. Today, we're going to talk about B2B growth strategies for 2022. And during the discussion, let me go through some housekeeping first. If you haven't been on our webinar prior, on the right side, you'll see kind of like the control panel where you have the opportunity to chat. You'll also, that'll be where any polls come or any sort of giveaways that we might have will appear. So please be sure to keep an eye on what's going on over there. And if for some reason you miss it, don't worry, we'll send it to you afterwards. Okay. Going through today's panel of experts, you'll see that on the call today, we have Ben Ladani. He's the CEO and founder of Creative MMS. We also have Jessica McGarvey, who's our business development representative, and myself, the director of marketing. We're very happy to be here, and we're very happy to share with you what we've been listening to, what we've been hearing, and all the buzz that's going on around the marketing world now, and definitely will continue on in 2022 and beyond. Some key takeaways for today. We'll be going through that traditional marketing funnel versus the flywheel mindset. We'll be looking at some digital trends, top tactics, examples, or an example, I should say, of some key objectives and helpful tools that could possibly help you out to actually execute on some of these. All right, with that being said, I will kick it off to Jess, who's going to go through the digital trends. Take it away, Jess.
Thanks, Jennifer. Hi, everyone. So happy to be here. So glad that you could make it. As Jennifer mentioned, wasting no time, I'm going to dive into some of the top digital trends we are seeing for 2022. These aren't completely new, but they're either gaining speed, gaining momentum, or further evolving. So I want to touch on those, and then I'll hand it off to Ben and Jennifer, who will talk about tactics based on the trends that we're seeing. So first things first, I do want to start off with a pop quiz just to kind of get everybody in the mood here. So no Google cheating. This is for a $20 Amazon gift card. Price is Right rules. So whoever gets closest without going over, how many minutes does the average user spend each day using a mobile device? And you guys can pop your answers in that chat. We're looking for total minutes, or you could pop it in as hours and minutes, whatever you're more comfortable with. Take your best guess. How many minutes does the average user spend each day using a mobile device?
Does this include young people?
Includes everybody, yes. Young, old. Talk a little bit more about mobile in the next couple of slides. We're coming in 4 hours, 7 hours, 5 hours. Awesome. Really, really, really good guesses. 130 minutes. Excellent. Any more guesses? The answer is 250 minutes, or 4 hours and 10 minutes per day on average. So people are definitely going mobile. And that brings us to our first trend. So essentially, yes.
Well, first of all, let's congratulate Mark.
Good job,
Oh,
Mark.
Good job, Mark.
4 hours.
Like 10 minutes.
Right there. We'll get your Amazon gift card out later today. So look out for that. So yes, the world is mobile. We all know this, but there are some interesting stats about sort of where we are and where we're headed. For example, time spent on mobile increased by 20% this past year. And by 2025, 3/4 of the worldwide users will access the internet via a mobile device. So it's no surprise that we'll talk a little bit about mobile first for website design and development, making sure that your website is mobile first. We see it more often than not, or more often than you would think. Certain industries are just a little bit behind the times when it comes to their website. Maybe they've been, surviving or thriving even with a website that hasn't been mobile first for the, for the past. But moving forward, we'll see that, I think it's like 9 out of 10 users with an unsatisfying mobile experience will just drop off your site immediately. So we'll talk a little bit more about mobile first when it comes to website. And then as well, the trends for video marketing via mobile are interesting. Basically, the most popular form of content consumption is video. and 63% of mobile traffic is video traffic. So if you haven't implemented a strong video strategy into your marketing plans, now is definitely the time. Many marketers have or will shift to a digital-first marketing approach that prioritizes mobile advertising over traditional strategies. For example, things like social advertisements to generate leads that previously came from events. We know that events took a big hit after the pandemic. So folks are definitely pivoting towards increasing their ad spend towards highly targeted and personalized tactics available through, for example, social media channels. So definitely a move here towards more and more B2B marketers using the mobile tactics, mobile first, in their marketing strategies. The next trend that we're seeing is around privacy. So with the passing of privacy legislation and Google's announcement that it will end third-party cookies by the end of 2023, this is obviously top of mind for a lot of marketers. We think of it like a continued dance between advertisers and consumers. 39% of consumers want to see data security and privacy made a core corporate value. They don't want third-party sales of their data, and they want the option to choose how their data is used. So advertisers are being forced to market more responsibly by building trust through privacy-first messaging and notices. And again, this is something we'll talk more about a little bit later on in the presentation. Next trend, which is a big one, we're hearing more and more about it, is accessibility. So every business website is expected to be accessible. Most countries, including the US, have adopted the WCAG 2.1 AA or Web Content Accessibility Guidelines as a standard. 20% of the population has a disability. So without taking the necessary steps, making your website accessible, you're not only losing out on potential customers, but you're also susceptible to lawsuits. According to the Wall Street Journal, the number of US lawsuits for website apps and digital videos rose 64% in the first half of 2021 alone. So we do anticipate that the more that people are hearing about this legislation and feeling like they cannot access a website or an app, the more we're going to see this in the news. On the other hand, with the increased news and knowledge around this issue, it's bringing the topic to the forefront. So we do have a lot of clients that come to us asking about compliance, wanting to ensure that their website will be built compliant. But we're seeing more and more affordable and efficient options that can take an existing well-built website to the level A double compliance, which is needed without too much overhead or production work. And last, but certainly not least, a top trend, especially in the B2B world, is account-based marketing. So this pivots from a lead-based approach where marketers try to capture as many leads as possible to focusing on best fit and highest value accounts or buying groups in your niche. It definitely requires greater sales and marketing alignment and nurtures long-term relationships within your buying groups by targeting specific people within that account for specific services. So ABM sort of spans acquisition to cross-selling and upselling and then retention of current clients. So we've all heard and know that it's definitely more affordable to retain a client than it is to attain a new one. And you also have greater success in cross-selling and upselling current clients than you do attaining a new sale. So according to a recent study, we see that 75% of companies plan to increase their ABM budget in 2022. And again, we'll talk a little bit more about that. And before we move on to Ben and the marketing flywheel versus the traditional funnel, we wanted to hear from you. So what is your main 2022 business goal or KPI? And I did list some here. These are the most common that I hear from clients or prospects that I'm talking to. So whether it's increased brand awareness and consistency, generating more qualified leads, growing existing accounts, or boosting customer retention rate, if you could drop your answer in the poll section to the right of your screen, we'd love to sort of know what your main KPIs are for 2022. Oh, I looked at that. Generating more qualified leads. Could have guessed it. Excellent. All right. So with that, I'm going to hand it off to Ben to dive into the flywheel.
Yeah, thanks, Jess. Welcome, everybody. Yeah, so I think we talk about the marketing funnel. I'm sure everybody's heard of that, and people have heard about the flywheel on occasion as well. I'll kind of give you some more of a visual on this so you can see what we're talking about when we talk about this. But most marketers and even executives at businesses have seen this funnel that you see off on the left-hand side of your screen. They talk about if it's generating more leads as a goal or growth for that matter, that you want to attract people into, let's say, your website or any of your marketing campaigns, and they become visitors up at the top. Then, they might become a lead when they fill out a form, a lead generation form, something like a white paper to download. They give you an email address or a phone number, and then the marketing team qualifies them. That's an MQL, marketing qualified lead. The sales team says, yep, this is a good lead for us. That sales qualified lead. They become an opportunity. You start to work that deal. And maybe, your sales cycle might be a couple months, let's say, but you're working on that deal to get an understanding of that customer. And then they do become a customer. They've hit that bottom of the funnel and you're all systems go and super happy about it. That's the traditional way of thinking about things. But we have started to think about things by this flywheel, and this graphic on the right that you see represents it a little bit better. Made popular by HubSpot, which is a CRM, a marketing automation platform and CRM. But it better reflects the way that customers think about the experience these days, and the way that we as marketers are trying to make sure that people think about the experience from that side as well. If you notice, the first thing, the customers are the center of the entire ecosystem around the marketing and the efforts that you put forward. Up on the top is acquisition, right? So at that top right side, if you're trying to create awareness about your brand and your business, you are trying to bring people in, acquire them as potential prospects. So there's still visitors and leads maybe at that point. But as they kind of go through the funnel, as you would traditionally say it, you're nurturing them. You're giving them content that justifies why you're a good value proposition for them to continue a conversation or continue to dig in. You're building that relationship as you're nurturing. And then you hopefully convert them into a customer, and you retain them through delighting them with an amazing experience. And so if you guys think of the best experience you've ever had working with a business-to-business provider, working with another business as a business, you think about the experience as being really paramount to the success of that relationship. And that's really important, because now in this flywheel, what that does is create an experience that's worthy of sharing, reviewing, telling friends and others, that becomes now back to the beginning of this flywheel, the acquisition. So I had a great experience, let's say, with a business. I tell my friends and family about it. Now, all of a sudden, they're starting that flywheel in the awareness stage, finding out a business that I recommended. And that flywheel just continues to spin. It continues to grow, and customers are super happy. And as Jess mentioned, ABM, or the account-based marketing, is a really big portion of that, because you're trying to continue to build that relationship, expand that relationship, and grow through very happy customers. So that is a big trend that we're seeing, as well as a tactic in terms of looking at it from that perspective. So moving through to the tactics for 2022. So let's say those are the trends, and these are the tactics that we would use to take those trends into consideration and move forward in many ways. So this one here, website design and functionality, very important to us. It's always been important to us, but it's becoming increasingly important with some of the stats and the trends that we just showed, as far as mobile first especially. It's not only really helpful to make sure you're mobile first from an experience standpoint, but Google, from a search perspective, has split the index into mobile and standard, meaning that when you search on a mobile device, you might get different results than what you get on a standard device. And so it's very important for ranking, but it's also extremely important for experience. With that increasing number of people, an increasing amount of time, 4 hours and 10 minutes on a mobile device every day, if you're not adapting your screen, you're not adapting your messaging for mobile users, you're missing out. Second piece I'd put out here is the focus on user experience and customer journey. So looking at that flywheel off on the left, and knowing that the website design and functionality really does apply to that acquisition and nurturing more so than anything, you have to really think about, does my website speak properly to my audience as they're in that acquisition and nurturing stage of my engagement with them? And really focus on the content that you have on the site. Can the prospect or client find what they're looking for? Is the information laid out in a way where they can get exactly what they're looking for from an answer perspective, but also that you're telling them the next thing that you want them to do, so that they can continue to get to that next step in the flywheel. Leveraging the website to build a community around your brand. I mean, we stress really heavily these days about making sure you have some degree of a resource library on your website, where there can be more information about Let's say your sales team can send information out to people that they've just spoken about that solves some unique challenges or something like that. Or even just creates awareness for people that might have a special question. They're searching for an answer to a topic that they have. If your business can answer that question through a relationship you can start creating with them, then your content could bridge that gap. And the last piece I'd call out here is the chatbots or live chat. Chatbots as a term got really popular a couple of years ago, and everybody was like kind of experimenting and throwing them out there. But nowadays we see it as a great, really first step and intro into a conversation with a customer through the website. Live chats, a form, let's say, if you want to think of it that way, that's constantly there, always there to be able to be for a customer or a potential customer prospect to fill out the form, start a conversation, and the systems have evolved to be very, very robust to be able to dive right into that conversation and not just be robotic with something that's automated. So HubSpot is a good example of one that works really, really well. It's also great for customer support. So in that, retention and experience standpoint, it's a really good way for you as a company to make sure you're continuing to provide access to you in a way that you can continue to delight your customers or even prospects. The next thing I call out here is web accessibility. So Jess called out how important accessibility is coming. I think it is one of the biggest trends to watch out for. There are companies that are getting sued right now for not having websites that are accessible because handicapped, mentally disabled, it could be anything, could be visually impaired, any of those issues that somebody has. You're really basically segmenting them out of your ability to work with them by not allowing them to navigate your website. So you just think about it like a handicap ramp at a restaurant, where those restaurants need to have those ramps so that people in wheelchairs can get up there. Your website needs to be able to do that for all sorts of different disabilities. There are simple solutions. We have one that we work with as a partner that provides an overlay that can just basically take your website and make sure that it accommodates visually impaired, cognitive disabled, even things like ADHD friendly. So very, very helpful. And we do have an offer for a free website scan if you're interested in it, for us to help you by scanning your website to show you where there are issues with your accessibility. That will be something you definitely can follow up on for sure. Next up, we talk about videos. So I know, again, growing trend. You guys, I'm sure, as users of the internet, are watching videos these days online. This gap has been blurred between the cable box and the TV and the mobile device and the TV. And so videos are a great way for you as a brand, as a business, to get your information out there to people that are consuming it that way already. Explainer videos, animated videos, they could be short, snippet type, question and answer videos. You don't need to go over the top with really crazy, overly produced video to be able to insert yourself in the conversation in a way where people are already listening to this stuff. But we talk about highlighting your product, your service, or your idea in a compelling way, making sure that it's visually interesting. Basically think of it like your salesperson communicating information online. And there's a stat here that an overwhelming majority of people, 94%, watching explainer videos to learn about a product, with 84% being swayed to make a purchase. So it's actually in there at the decision-making process as well, a very effective tool for you to be able to pair video together with what you're doing to try and convince your audience that you are a good fit to work with them. Product 360-degree videos. I don't know if anybody's ever been, shopping for a car or shopping for even shoes online these days, and you can spin them around and see everything about it. We'll talk a little bit about the adoption of AI and AR and virtual reality. But, this is a great way of showcasing the details and presenting products in a more relatable context. So that really works in direct-to-consumer or business-to-consumer type sales. But if you think about how that might adapt to your business-to-business type sales, if you're, let's say, a scientific or life science companies that has a product that sells to labs or something like that, you do need to get behind this trend and make sure you're involved in this type of conversation. Interactive videos as well, too. I mean, with static video content, the customer role is passive, basically. Interactive videos you can use to really engage the audience, create that feedback loop with your brand, and make sure that you really are staying top of mind to answer questions, guiding the viewer to the relevant content that you want to show. When we talk about resource libraries and content on the website, we don't just think about text on websites anymore. We think about videos, We think about white papers. We think about even pre-recorded webinars. And these interactive videos are an opportunity to take maybe something like this webinar that we're doing for you guys, and we would slice it into a couple of different snippets that we can then use to answer key questions that we may get in social media or over email. And so being able to be interactive with your content is extremely important. So with that, I'll pass it over to Jennifer to talk more about some account-based marketing.
Thanks, Ben. Appreciate it. I hope everybody's enjoying the webinar so far. First of all, let me state that with account-based marketing, I feel like I could talk an entire webinar just about account-based marketing. So this is going to be a very high-level overview about it. For those of you who haven't heard about ABM yet, what is it? It's a business marketing strategy. This is the true definition. A business marketing strategy that concentrates resources on a set of targeted accounts within a market. It uses personalized campaigns designed to each account, basing that message on the specific attributes and needs of that one account. What does that all mean? We'll continue. So I'm sure most of you have heard about content marketing. It's been around for decades now, and without ABM cannot exist without content marketing. Let me state that. Content marketing, though, is more that traditional lead-based strategy where you're casting this really wide net. I'm going to make it small so that I'm in my screen, but you're casting a really wide net and you're funneling it down as you go, kind of like that funnel that Ben was talking about earlier. What ABM is, it is actually turns it around and takes it and goes here. So what you're doing is you're starting with a set of targeted accounts at the top, and then you're expanding those accounts based upon the number of people that you can reach within each account, and then continuing down and again, keep on growing it. So it kind of like takes the funnel and flips it upside down a little bit. But augmenting those traditional lead-based content marketing strategy, putting a stronger focus on account-based strategy is a way that can really help you maximize revenue generation within your company. There's really 5 steps to ABM. It starts obviously with identifying the best accounts, which is considered in the ABM world your ICP, ideal customer profile. You can do this through data, through just internal discussions, through AI, artificial intelligence. So there's a lot of platforms out there that'll help you to do that, but you just need to have the right tools. It can also be existing accounts. It doesn't all have to be new accounts. So think about existing accounts. So maybe there's cross-sell opportunities or upsell opportunities if you're already not working on those within a larger company, or taking on a totally new account that's maybe within your same, within an industry that you've already worked in. Once you've identified who those best accounts are, you want to learn everything you can about them. Who are their stakeholders? What's their buying process? What data do they use in their tech stack? What's their search intent? What channels are they doing? What's their stages? I mean, you could just keep digging deeper and deeper, but the more that you understand about that audience and that specific account that you're looking to get, the better it's going to be. Once you've learned all about who they are, you want to focus on orchestration. Now, orchestration, I know you've heard it before. Maybe not the term, but it's basically the ability to deliver the right message to the right account at the right time across the right channel throughout their journey, wherever they are. But you also want to do it automatically and at scale, because you're going to be doing this for multiple accounts. So it's essential for ABM strategy is orchestrating a wide range of marketing channels that are targeted to these best fit accounts, so that you're really having this omni-channel approach. And for organizations who have historically used a one-size-fits-all approach, moving away from the marketing status quo can be a bit of a challenge, not only for buy-in from the sales team, but also maybe challenging to receive a buy-in from an executive team, depending upon the size of your organization. I had just mentioned to get a buy-in from the sales team. Marketing sales collaboration is essential for this to work. They have to be in constant communication. That doesn't have to be verbal. It could be through a CRM platform that they're using, but the exchange of information to continue to warm accounts, move them through the funnel, conduct relevant sales outreach, and doing it at the right time is going to be needs to be very well organized in order for this to be successful. Again, I said the first step is to ensure that the sales and marketing team are aligned and working towards mutually agreed and achievable goals. You'd be amazed if you ask a sales team what their goal is, and then you ask the marketing team what their goal is, and they could be two totally different things. So you need to make sure that they're on the same page when you start this. And from there, organizations can start to dig deeper into the different stages of ABM and understand the areas where they need the most support from external team members within a company. But aligning on goals is got to be key. Once you've aligned on goals and you've got things working, you have to remember to keep on tracking the ROI and the impact that the platform on the pipeline and the revenue that ABM has. The three most likely KPIs being measured in a lot of companies are revenue generated, leads generated, and opportunity to customer rate. Now, I know that one of the things with the polls, and the answer to the poll, I guess, which 100% said was generating more qualified leads. That can be done with content marketing, obviously with the wider funnel, but it can also be done with this little funnel where you're working your way down, where you're getting more leads within an exact company that's the right company for you. The overall goal, obviously, is to create more focused awareness and engage with customers. And there's probably some other things that you might want to focus on depending upon what's important to your goals, like maybe customer lifetime value or things of that nature. So you need to keep those in mind. As part of what I just mentioned with account-based marketing is you still need to have content marketing, but the new buzzword in content marketing is empathy marketing. So empathy marketing is all about, it's all about seeing the world through the user's point of view. It helps you place the customer at the center of your marketing strategy and work outward. It can't be about you and your company and what you offer. It needs to be about the customers and their needs. It relies on building trust through the customer journey. It's going to evoke an emotion that these individuals are going to have as they continue to trust and grow with you. And something that we feel that B2C brands are doing really well, but it's still kind of lacking in the B2B space because you feel like you're talking to more of a business person than a human. So even though it is a business that you are trying to get, even in account-based marketing where you're targeting just an account, you are still targeting a person within that account. So you need to make sure you're empathetic to their needs. You want to make sure that you're telling your story. Don't just push your products. Make your client the hero of your story, not your business. How is what you offer going to make them the hero in their business world so that everybody's like, wow, this person found a great solution. Everything's working fantastically. We're super happy with what's going on. Again, continuing to highlight the pain points and how your solution solves those using emotional words. But your story needs to be the lovely 3 C's: clear, concise, and compelling. Because without those, you're probably going to lose some individuals. So keep that in mind, even whether it's you're doing content marketing or whether you're doing account-based marketing, or most likely you're doing a combination of both, because most people do not just take on one type of marketing. Hyper-personalization is not only part of account-based marketing, which we've already talked about, where you're really personalizing the message right down to like landing pages and things of that nature, but there's other ways that you can hyper-personalize. So geofencing, I know you've heard the term, maybe you're not doing it yet. It's in the initial stages of the buyer's journey that geofencing really allows you to narrowly target based on location. This may be more for B2C businesses, but it may still be valid for B2B, depending upon what it is that you're offering. Within an ABM strategy, targeting the right buyer with an account to offer new and relevant products or your services is extremely important. And you have to think just beyond like targeting emails. Think workflows, think campaigns, think webinars, think landing pages, think podcasts, thank you pages, and even web pages on your website. Now that we can really start to target and personalize pages based upon maybe what company or where they're coming from, if you have access to that information within your CRM connected to your website. Welcome and onboarding communications. Obviously, you want to make sure that what you're offering to your clients when they do decide to become part of your organization, in a sense that they are now a customer, they are partnering with you. You want to make sure that you're really clear in those communications and that you're personalizing to their specific needs. as you continue to onboard them and react to those needs, because everybody's going to have different ones. And obviously, the last one, develop a knowledge base and FAQs, simple to do on your website. But there's a great way that you can create that knowledge base that's maybe filterable by certain industries or services that you offer. FAQs, you can do the exact same thing, frequently asked questions, because people just want to understand and be able to do a lot of research before they even reach back out to you. I just read something, and I might be paraphrasing it just slightly differently, but it was somewhere around like 86% of people that come to your website are not even looking to purchase. They're not looking to take that next step. They're specifically looking just for information about what it is that you offer, and that's in B2B and B2C. So keep that in mind when you think about what's important to put on your website and how people can find it. Lastly, to talk about in regards to, this kind of goes with account-based marketing in the sense that just brought up earlier, data privacy. Privacy is not going away. Privacy is only going to continue to grow. Ben, I can't think of the name of that. Why am I blanking on the name of that search engine? That's
DuckDuckGo.
DuckDuckGo. Thank you. Totally blanked on it.
Okay.
DuckDuckGo. I can't tell you how many commercials I've heard for that thing on like Spotify, because I don't pay for Spotify. But you know, the amount of information that it's getting out to individuals to know that they can actually use certain platforms right now where you can't find their information, but definitely in the future with third-party data and cookies that are slowly going away. But keep in mind, this doesn't need to be a barrier to your success. Historically, marketing efforts have depended on third-party cookies. They've been like the cornerstones, and this is not really going to be something that we can look for, 1, 2, 3 years down the road. You have to emphasize your preparedness for this transition, and there do exist solutions like ABM, where you're targeting a more account-based approach, but you can also use things like chat, the chat bot that Ben spoke about earlier. You can use email, you can use data on the web pages that they're visiting on your website to really help target those individuals and know what their interests are. And then you can continue to segment based upon their actions that you're able to track in a way that is not like through search engines. And think about it, first-party data in general covers, I should say, it uncovers so much more about the customers that directly feels like it feeds into a more personalized marketing campaign, which is, of course, the very strategy behind an ABM strategy. So the valuable resources will allow organizations to understand their client base, target them with the content that they're looking for. It'll eventually reduce wasted time and effort. There will be more effort that goes into it to begin with, but you need to understand that once you get this data, it'll be there forever and you'll be able to continue to use it and grow with it. And it's going to ultimately drive ROI. So don't be afraid of data privacy. In my mind, I'm thinking embrace it and find a way to really target those customers. Be prepared for it. I guess what we've been dealing with so far with the data that we've been able to gather from individuals visiting our website, it's really been that comfort blanket. Like we feel all warm and fuzzy when we see all this information and we're able to utilize it. But the information that you're going to get individually is going to be a lot more, which can be good and bad. So keep in mind that everything that you're able to get, you need to hone in on what's important to you and your company. You can get so much data now from individuals, and going forward, you'll be able to do that through segmentation. Just be careful that you don't fall down a rabbit hole and don't understand what it is that you're trying to find. Because if you're trying to look at too much, it's just going to become overwhelming. So keep that in mind as you go through. So that's what I have to say about data privacy. I will now kick it back to Ben, who's going to go into more of programmatic advertising.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's a good segue from the data privacy side of things, because programmatic is going to use the data that it does have on users to being able to better automate the buying and selling and targeting of those ad dollars towards the right eyeballs. And so Jess mentioned that dance between the data that somebody's trying to give out or not try to give out, and the company trying to target that person based on what it knows. And that's going to be an ongoing struggle. Well, programmatic advertising is kind of consolidating your digital efforts into potentially one tech platform. It could be that you use this and others, but really segmenting the audience and making sure that The technology is in some ways AI targeting for the optimal goals that you're trying to accomplish by the advertising dollars that you're spending. And so the computers and the algorithms are making the ad buying decisions, the placement, the optimization, doing it in an automated fashion. A lot of times it's for awareness, but it's gotten a lot better about conversion as well, in a way that these platforms are doing the work that people used to have to do in terms of placing ads in the right places. You could include in this too some degree of even advertising in those like Hulu networks and Google TV and other platforms as well, where instead of it just being like TV advertising that is digital and programmatic in some ways, and it also expands out to beyond that to other websites that are out there and other areas that those eyeballs are searching and finding or potentially finding your business. So definitely a trend, and again, one that's balanced against the privacy battle that's going on these days. As Jennifer mentioned, one of the ways to combat that is to make sure that you're trying to gather up as much information as you can about the relationships that you already have. And if you think of them as relationships, you gather that information about the relationships that you already have so you can keep that open lines of communication going. So next thing I'd move on to talk about is A/B testing. And so when you hear A/B testing, basically A/B testing is we show you one thing, we show you another thing, we see which one you respond to best. In the traditional format, you think of that in terms of actual creatives, like actual imagery or video or something, and which one works best. But A/B testing to us could be everything and anything. I mean, email subject lines, the landing pages that we direct people through in campaigns, even so far as the campaigns that we're running to bid on certain keyword terms and the ad copy that we show when people get there, the form fields and modifying different things to see what people respond to best. But A/B testing is essential. I mean, even so far as one of the best tactics, if you take this away in terms of your own campaigns that you might be running, but something like just instead of just running one ad creative on your social campaigns, your paid LinkedIn or your paid Google Ads campaigns, run 3 different ones and keep them running for the same time period. Split your budget across all 3 of them and see which one of them performs. Shut off the other 2 and keep the one running. It's a very simple format for doing something like that. But that in and of itself is A/B testing at its core to be able to optimize for what's going to be successful about getting people around that funnel. You think about segmentation, and one segment may really respond better to a certain campaign than another, and that will help you be able to make sure that your content is resonating best with that audience. So there's some other tactics to consider. We didn't go into a lot of detail on these, but we definitely want to call them out because there's a lot of stuff changing. One thing about digital and technology in general, and I know this because I'm a geek, I embrace that fully. It's all good, but there's always something new coming up. There's always new technologies that are out there, some of which, we dive right in and we're saying we can leverage this. This is great. And some of which you kind of lay back and say, let's make sure that this is going to stick around. So just going through some of these, you're going to start hearing about Web 3.0. Basically, what that means at its core is that there are companies using blockchain and cryptocurrency, basically coins, to create marketplaces or even just reward systems on their websites to be able to create an entire basically economy inside the business of the site itself. And it's a kind of very progressive trend, but if you look it up and do some homework on it, you'll start to see that it's kind of innovative in the way that it's being applied. Very B2C right now and very gaming oriented, overlaps a little bit with the metaverse and things like NFTs that are being purchased using digital currency and coins. But it's something to keep your eye out on because it will change things like title and title ownership for title companies, things like that, where the blockchain will allow people to be able to demonstrate decentralized ownership of assets. So it's something to just think about that it's coming. I wouldn't go all head first into it just yet unless you really have a good viable option for it. Artificial intelligence is big too. We already talked about this in the programmatic advertising space, but programmatic is going to use AI to build out better segmentation, better audience, better optimization on the campaigns. And even beyond that, there are even website tools that are experimenting and using AI in terms of web page layouts and web page designs and things like that. Very progressive, but it's out there. VR and AR, we do some things with this in terms of even like real estate. If let's just say you're a commercial real estate company and you're selling your space, VR is a great way to help sell that space by allowing somebody to jump into that environment. AR, which is augmented reality, which would be basically like I can see the real world, but I also get data about that real world in whatever, glasses or set that I'm using. Start to think about how that might apply to your business and your marketing in general. And there are definitely applications that will come up. Podcasting, not new. It's another tactic to consider, though. There are a lot of great podcasts that are out there. There are some content that is completely flooded, but we have seen a lot of success with people that are podcasting on topics that they really know, creating content and infiltrating in an auditory format that helps bring people in from a marketing standpoint. Voice search I'd call out as well, because there's just, an opportunity for people if they're on their mobile devices all the time. I know myself, I'm constantly saying, okay, Google, and, my wife's using Siri all the time. And so those things are ways by which we're interacting with the devices and the human computer interface these days. And so that will adapt to how it translates to the marketing it already is in terms of search results. There's always going to be a new social media platform coming up. So just, we always want to throw that in there to keep your eye on that next, whatever it is that's coming down the pike. So, TikTok came out and, took the world by storm really quickly. And there are others that people have been talking about that, may be something to experiment with your brand. Our advice on that is always don't go head first into it. Get to know the platform, get to know the targeting, what you can do on it, how you can build audience and replicate what's working for others to be able to make sure you maximize it. And the last one here that I'd call out is big data. It's a buzzword term, but the fact that there is all that data out there that you can use for targeting is one way that big data impacts your ability to reach audience. But the other thing is in the data that you can collect and leverage to make your decisions about your business in a way where you might make informed decisions about the direction that you take your marketing or your business in general. So with that, I will pass it off to Jess to talk about some examples, or specifically an example on how to measure performance.
Thank you, Ben. So we talked about some trends. We talked about quite a bit of tactics. And first things first, you probably don't want to deploy all of those tactics at once. We think it's important to mention that based on your business and your main goals for 2022, that's where, start there. Start with your goals. What are you trying to measure? What are you trying to reach? And then from there, this is a way that we'll put main objectives together for our clients. So based on specific goals that they have, we will document it. It keeps everybody on track, basically aligned and focused on the top priorities. So if our objective 1 is account-based marketing, we want to make sure we're defining the purpose, the justification, the audience, what would be included in your strategy. And then, of course, the bottom here is the measurement. So, out of this new strategy that we're going to try or that we're going to continue, what are the main focuses for measurement? What is important to us? As Jennifer mentioned, you can go down a rabbit hole of data. So you just want to make sure you're focusing in on what's going to be important to you. I think it's also important to mention here that oftentimes, your marketing plan, it's a work in progress throughout the year. Initiatives come up and things come up that maybe weren't expected in the beginning of the year when you were putting it together. So the justification aspect of it is, somebody might have a great idea and they throw that idea in the ring and say, let's do this. It's always nice to be able to come back to your main objectives and say, does this fit into our justification? Which audience is it for? And is it reaching that audience? And is it worth deploying, this new exciting thing that somebody brought up? So we do like to document this, keep everyone on the same page. You'll see here, this is for account-based marketing. And then on the next slide, an example of empathy marketing, the purpose, justification, and the measurement there as well. So it's definitely a nice, whatever layout you decide, it's definitely nice to keep everybody on track and keep everybody accountable, as you're running campaigns and deploying your strategies. Some tools to consider. So moving forward to some tools that we recommend and that we have used based on some of the tactics that we talked about. So first thing is Accessibility is a tool that we're using. We're actually partnered with Accessibility for website accessibility. Really great program. As far as programmatic advertising, Intercom, I believe, is a platform that you could use. That is sort of a one-stop shop. Also have the chat box. HubSpot, we mentioned, we love their Flywheel. They also have, the chatbot option if you're using them as a CRM that they can just pop onto your website, which is nice. If you're deploying SMS campaigns, text message campaigns, message media is a good option. Can usually integrate with a CRM too, so that if you have a sales team that's using, different tactics, or marketing and sales team using different tactics, within your contact record, you could actually, keep track of the SMS messages that you're sending out and any responses that you're getting. And then when it comes to videos, we like Drift for personalization and live videos. And then of course, Biteable, if you are looking to just create some in-house animated videos. Again, going back to like empathy marketing and telling stories, animated or live videos are both really good ways to do that. Obviously, text is one thing, but when you can kind of put a face and a name to your product or service and your company, you're more likely to sort of strike a chord with that audience. And then moving on, so we do realize that our audience here, you have different goals, you have different needs. First, we would recommend you start with a full strategy. I guess I would throw that out there to the audience. Have you guys planned your strategy, or do you know what you're doing for 2022 yet? Is that a Q4, by end of Q4 to have that locked and loaded? We have a couple offers here for you. So if you're more of a DIY and you want to keep things in-house, we do have a strategic marketing plan template that can be really helpful to sort of align, looks at your company. You could add in competitor information, audience information in there. So this is available on our marketplace. It's typically $49. We're offering it for 50% off. So there's a coupon code, so you can check that out. We should be able to put that in the offer section as well. Or if you would prefer a more collaborative approach and you kind of want to chat with us here at Creative MMS to see, have a conversation about goals and strategy and what we might recommend, you could certainly reach out to me directly, and I'm happy to just sort of, talk through any challenges and goals and kind of what you're planning for 2022 and if we might be able to help. And I think with that, we will move on to Q&A. So does anybody have any questions?
We did get one prior to this starting. It was in the survey. So somebody had asked regarding the title, is they've heard of growth hacking, but they hadn't heard of growth marketing, and they were wondering what the difference was between the two.
Yeah, sure. I could take that. So when you think about hacking in general, which first of all, I don't love the term. I mean, we don't suggest using that term in terms of saying hacking anything. But when you hear it, a lot of times that's kind of growth hacking at the core would be kind of on a much smaller scope, fixing little things here and there that would adjust the overall lead generation or growth of one of the types of objectives that you're trying to grow. Where the other is a lot more broad, right? Growth marketing is way more of an omni-channel type approach to saying, what are we doing to make sure that we cover that entire flywheel and accommodate for everything so that we can grow as a business very holistically. We're much bigger proponents of the growth marketing side of things. And the growth hacking type of thing would be kind of, hey, I'm hiring one person to really try and grow this specific thing that I'm trying to do, to hack it, to get it to the point where the numbers are showing in a better direction. If you center around the experience and the customer experience at the core and think about the flywheel, you really want to make sure that you cover the tenets of, the awareness, the nurturing, and the decision stuff.
Good. Thanks, Ben.
Sure.
Just got one question that says, how do I know if my website is ADA compliant? Jess, do you want to answer that? Do you want me to?
Sure. I can start it, and then absolutely. So first things first, I would say you can take advantage of our free scan. It's super simple. We would be able to provide a quick overview of it's really a pass. It's not necessarily a pass fail. Compliance is a journey, not a destination. Every time your website gets a content update or an image changes, technically you should rescan. which is why we like sort of an overlay solution. So I would say start with the free scan. There are other tools out there that could probably give you a quick view of, where the issues lie. Sometimes it could be, within the build, whether it's color contrast. That's something that, your IT guy or your developer might do for you. And then on the other hand is you could build to level A. Typically at Creative MMS, we've always built our websites to level A compliance, and then use the overlay solution to reach that level AA. And the good thing about the tool that we're using is that it's actually, it's a 24-hour scan. So it scans your website every 24 hours. So if you make a change to your website, add a page, add content, remove something, this tool is going to continue to scan the website and update it for you. So it's really, you don't have to be managing it constantly. And I don't know if I missed anything there, Jennifer, but.
Nope, I think you got it. Thank you. All right. Looks like we got a question too. Hold on, I just lost it. Found it. All right. So Ben, this might go to you. So how many companies have put money that was set aside for events into digital? So it's a lot more expensive now. What other forms of digital advertising would you suggest that might be a little less expensive?
Yeah, thanks. I see that Megan asked that. Megan, great question. Couple things I'd call out on that. I think when you're talking about the expense of it, you're talking about ad dollars and the fact that kind of your ad spend doesn't go as far because there's a lot more advertisers on platforms now that they've moved those budgets over, which is absolutely true. So you've seen things like your Google costs, your Google Ads costs go up because there's a lot more advertisers on there driving the bidding, to higher prices on certain terms that you might be bidding on. So the first thing I would say with that is adapting the strategy to be a little bit more specific and segmented and very siloed to spend your money more wisely, right? And so that could mean, in some cases for us, it has moving dollars from Google Ads to LinkedIn and specifically targeting the audience that you're trying to reach with really good segmentation so those dollars are more effective. It's also that as Google has increased in terms of the ad dollars, not everybody has moved over to LinkedIn yet, and LinkedIn is getting some really good results, especially on things like videos and awareness for videos and things like that. That would be the first thing I would say is, so the simple answer to that is take the same amount of money that you're already spending and segment more. So target a smaller audience in, let's say, a certain location or certain segments of their title, their industry, to be able to let that money go a little bit further. The second thing I would add in there too is just content and content creation. If you can do it in-house, it's a really cheap and easy way to be able to put information out there. We talked about videos as being something that's a good way to communicate with your audience. And one of the things that we see is everybody spends a lot of money on awareness and may not spend a ton of money or any money at all in the going from awareness to consideration or decision in certain terms of the funnel. So if you do invest some time into the nurturing and make sure that every eyeball that you're getting is getting nurtured, it can be done very cost effectively with things like snippet videos, like really, really quick and personalized videos that get tailored and sent out, or even just content like writing good content and putting it up on your website and sending it out over email. It's inexpensive, but it's a really good way that if you watch your traffic and you spike your traffic every time you send out an email and you're doing it once a month, well, just accelerate the content creation on your own team to be able to produce more content in-house. That's cheap, and sending an email is cheap as well, and you'll get that other spike in traffic that helps in the nurturing, but not as much in the awareness. So there's a couple things, but I could go on forever. So if you wanted to have more of a one-on-one conversation about it, by all means, I'm happy to hear more about what you're looking to do and see if we can help.
Hey, thanks, Ben. All right. I don't see any more questions in the chat box. So I want to thank everybody for joining us today. I hope this was valuable for you and a valuable use of your time. If you do have any questions, please feel free to reach out to us. Grab our website, drop in the contact form, reach out to Jess. However we can help you, we'll be more than happy to answer any questions you might have and perhaps put together a helpful strategy for 2022. Thank you. Have a wonderful day and stay safe.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Bye.